Hello everyone, a Ninja here, and today is the first installment of a new series we're doing on this channel. I'm calling it a Ninja Game Critic. Still working on the name, but so far that's the catchiest thing I could come up with. In this series, we talk about a video game and give it a rating based off of its quality of game design. Because game design is such a large topic, we'll probably narrow it down to describing game design elements related to the game's genre or whatever was important for that game. That should help limit the videos to about a 10-minute interval, give or take. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the terrifying game of Alien Isolation. I normally suck at starting these things, so let's just dive right on in. For those of you who don't know, Alien Isolation is a survival horror stealth game based on the Alien movie franchise. This means that you have to hide and be scared that you're hiding in the Alien universe. Now, I'm not going to be that YouTuber who makes you watch to the end of the video to find that one thing you're looking for. I'm going to give you the rating right about now. This game is amazing. There's very little I can find wrong with it. In my book, this game is a 10 out of 10. But hold the phone! Don't click off that video just yet. I'm going to be reviewing the specifics of what makes this game get its 10 out of 10 rating from me. And I'm going to be giving it a more detailed review or a more detailed grading at the end of the video. So if you're interested in seeing why I give it a 10 out of 10 and what makes this such a good game, keep watching. And just because I need to say this, I'm going to do my very best not to include any spoilers as much as possible, but there's no real way to make this completely spoiler free. But I will do my very best to let you guys know ahead of time that a spoiler is coming up and for you to skip ahead. There's also a chance that editing me might find a way to get around all of this and there won't be any problems and the statement is completely void. So, back on topic, what makes this game get such a good rating? Before I tell you that, we need to determine how we're grading Alien Isolation. To do so, we're going to look at what makes a survival horror stealth-based game good. That means we won't talk about level design, plots, etc, etc, etc. I gotta keep this video close to 10 minutes, guys. Now, as for grading it, we're gonna break it up into categories to make things easier. A game of this nature needs 5 primary game design elements in it. Disempowerment, tension and release, something to fear, a reason to fear losing or getting caught or something of that nature, and finally, tone. These 5 things are what make a horror game, well, horror. And there's probably a lot of topics we could still cover in game design, but these are pretty much the primary things that would make a horror game successful or not if you implement them correctly. Basically, the better you do each of these things, the more terrifying or the more successful your horror game will be as a horror game. First is the game design of disempowerment. This literally means to prevent a person or group from having power, authority, or influence. What does this mean for horror games? I'm glad I asked that for you. It basically means removing the player's ability to kill, defend, or pretty much change the world in any positive way for the player. So what does Alien Isolation do to incorporate this? Honestly, it's pretty simple. You can't hurt or kill the alien, and anyone you can hurt or kill normally costs a lot of resources to do so, which, mind you, you don't have a lot to use in the first place. And on top of that, if you attack anything, you normally attract the alien anyways, making it pretty much useless if you're not wanting to deal with the alien. And if you were hanging out on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/aninjaninja, you would have seen me trying to shoot the alien. That's some pretty standard disempowerment right there. Like that smooth Twitch plugin I just did right there. If you can't defend yourself or you have to go against a superpower where if it finds you, you die, that's basically disempowerment. And that's literally the alien. So that's a 10 out of 10 for disempowerment. Coolio, that was pretty quick. On to the next topic. This next one is a lot more in depth. We're going to be talking about tension and release now. So what is tension and release, and why do we need it in a horror game? So first off, to define the word tension, tension is the state of being pulled tight. Like when you tense your muscles up or you pull a rubber band really hard. You would now have tension in the rubber band or in your muscles. But the more important definition of tension is mental and emotional strain. So the more mental and emotional strain there is, the more tension there is. Now to define release is simply just letting that tension go. Let it drop, let it go down, fade away, anything of that nature. Like if you're watching a horror film and the kid's hiding in the closet and the big bad guy, like the murderer or something, walks up to the closet and stands there for a moment. You have a lot of tension right there. But as soon as the murderer, bad guy, whoever walks away from the door, the kid and the audience kind of feel a release of tension because now he's gone, he's not about to open that closet door. And normally the cliche thing is as soon as that release happens, boom, bad guy just opened the closet door and snatches the kid or something. You've probably seen something like that somewhere. It's very standard, typical tension release formula that a lot of horror films incorporate. So why is this important for horror games or just horror in general? To put it simply, if there was constant tension, the player would become used to it and the game would have to constantly raise tension to keep it feeling tense for the player. But that's pretty much impossible. This would also make the game boring and probably make the player quit because they'd never get a release from tension. Tension becomes old very fast and we don't like to be under it for too long. But with tension and release, the player has a moment to become relieved and then relaxed. This makes it easier to reapply the same tension and it have the same kind of impact. Now, how does Alien Isolation incorporate this? There's actually two primary ways they do so. The simplest one to explain is their music. I mean, just listen to this for a few seconds. That stuff be tense. Add that to the alien running around and then maybe androids and people that you have to be concerned about and boom, you've got some crazy tension going on. But the more complicated way they achieve this, and honestly the most brilliant way, is through the alien's AI. Now, the alien's AI is extremely complex and requires an entire video to really cover the whole thing, which is actually done by AI in games. I'll put a link to their video in the description below if you guys are interested. But to cover the AI quickly, the alien actually has two separate AIs. The director AI and the alien's AI. The director AI knows exactly where the player is at all times, always, and it has all the information of what's going on. And the alien's AI is an AI that reacts with sounds and noises. It's a reactive AI. It's the one that actively looks for the player and responds to anything the player does. So what happens here is the director's AI will give clues to the alien's AI as to where the player is to help it hunt the player down. This causes the alien to always be near the player, making things tense. But we can't just have tension all the time. Remember, we have to have tension and release. So how do they achieve release if the alien's always around? Well, the director AI actually measures tension, or I believe the game calls it the menace gauge. We're just gonna call it tension. If this gauge has been too low, that's when the director tells the alien, hey, go this way towards the player. But if the alien's lurked around the player too much and tension's been too high and we've hit the limit of the menace gauge, the director AI says, hey alien, time to go into the vents or go somewhere else because you've been bothering the player too much. Honestly, this is probably the most amazing tension and release design I've ever personally seen in any game. This literally ensures that there will always be something going on to make sure there's always a sense of tension in the air, but you also get that release at the right times, so you're constantly in this state of tension and release, and this helps the player progress because they're not constantly under tension. It gives them a moment to relax and move forward where they'll feel a bit more confident to do so, but it still keeps tension high and keeps them on edge. So tension and release, that's a 10 out of 10. Honestly, my personal opinion on this ingenious design is like 13 out of 10, but we're being unbiased here. So on to the next topic. Something to fear. The Alien, 10 out of 10, good job. Next topic. I'm just kidding, guys, but seriously though. I mean, I'm not completely joking, but let me break it down for you. A horror game always needs something for the player to attach their fear to. If there's just a bunch of random, creepy creatures that are different, their impact becomes weak and there really isn't much to be scared of. I mean, when you think about it in Alien Isolation, who are you more scared of, the androids and humans or the alien? Normally, knowing what you should fear and why you should fear it makes it even scarier. Some games might make you attach your fear to the dark. You know, if you stand in it, bad things happen. Or a monster that's lurking about. Alien. Sometimes it's the fear of literally something, but we don't know what that something is. Fear the something. As long as the player has something specific to fear, there will be more fear of it because the player will know it's bad and they'll probably know why to fear it. Some examples you might be able to attach this to is like Slender Man or the SCPs in Containment Breach, or shoot, even freaking Baldy. Baldy's Basics. Can't believe I just included Baldy in one of my videos. What have I become? And this really ties into the next point. A reason to fear. Now, there's a difference between something to fear and a reason to fear. To be a bit more specific, a reason to fear losing, being caught, or something of that nature. If I'm supposed to fear the alien but don't lose anything when I'm caught or die, then I can just keep charging in like Rambo and have no consequences for it. And because of that, there'd be no reason to fear. There are many ways games make you fear losing. Even games that aren't horror-based like Dark Souls. When you die in Dark Souls, you lose all your souls, and that's a reason to fear dying, a reason to fear losing, which causes the player to want to play more carefully. Now, the way Alien Isolation incorporated this idea of something to fear, or reason to fear, rather, is through the use of save points. If you die or you get caught, you have to go all the way back to your last save point. Which, in any normal game, you're like, okay, but that doesn't really solve that problem. They'll just keep running in from the save point until they get across. You're not entirely wrong, however, there's a few things wrong with that logic. Because Alien Isolation included one tiny detail that makes this way more impactful. You can still die while saving it, and if you're about to die as you save it, that save is gone. Because every time you load it up, you're about to die, which means you load it up, you'll die. You load it up, you'll die. There's no getting out of it. This means that the player has risk when it comes to saving it. So even when you make it to the next save point, you don't necessarily make it. I've had games and rounds where I got to the save point, I saved it, and was terrified for my life because I wasn't sure if I was going to save it or if my save was going to be bad because the alien's right outside the door. And honestly, that save point also incorporates a level of tension and release. Like I said, there's so many we could talk about in Alien that they do, but you know, you have that tension when you're saving it, and then once you find out it was a good save, you have release. It's pretty great. But back on topic, if you get killed on that save that you're about to save on, or right after you save it, you're pretty much gonna have to go all the way back to the previous save before then, which hurts. So you have a reason to be scared of dying because you don't want to lose all that progress you just made. And yes, Alien Isolation isn't pure evil. They don't make it to where you lose your entire game if you fail to save properly. You have a save and then you have a previous save. But because of the way their saving works, there is no true safety even in saving, unless of course you get a successful save and then you go Rambo from that point on because you don't care and you're doing it for the meme. Yes, I'm completely talking from experience. But this is a very unique take on having a reason to fear, and it keeps the player on edge even when they have to save. So 10 out of 10 for a reason to fear. This brings us to the final point, tone. I'm too lazy to memorize this definition, so the definition we're using of tone is, I'm just gonna read it right here. The general character or attitude of a place, piece of writing, situation, or etc. The tone can honestly make or break a horror game. If you have like the scariest thing known to man, but you're game is playing really relaxing music, it's not going to be scary. You've ruined the tone of the game. To get that quality horror tone, a game needs to have a bunch of elements that are very off-putting. It's hard to find like a single word to encapsulate everything I mean, but we're gonna try to explain. So like when you walk down the street at night and one of the street lights is flickering, that street light is abnormal. It's not part of the normal routine you would expect. It's abnormal, it's off-putting, and it causes a small sense of discomfort. It's off-settling because of its irregularity, because it's not normal. People are people of habits and patterns. So when their pattern is broken, it becomes irregular and it can become, it potentially can become scary. For a horror game, this means having darker colors, poor visibility, eerie sounds, music that has no easily latched onto tempo or rhythm. It's just etc, 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 etc. Anything that removes that sense of home or safety, that sense of regularity or habit, is going to set the tone for a horror game. As for Alien Isolation, it's got just about everything. Lots of dim lights, the thudding from the aliens' footsteps, the damage all over the station, with sparks and fire scattered about everywhere. Even the sudden loud or eerie noises when you have to push a button or pull a lever. And the music, which we've already covered, but it's such a great tone setter. So we're gonna listen to a piece of music again, but instead of listening for tension, we're going to be trying to attach a sense of rhythm to it quickly. If you notice, you probably struggled finding the rhythm and the beat in this music because it's intentionally made to not have any rhythm to latch onto. This helps sets the tone very well. So with all of that said, Alien gets a 10 out of 10 for tone. Whew, that was a lot to cover. And we still didn't even cover everything in game design, such as the level design, the way you progress, the learning curve, so on and so on. To do so would make this video ridiculously long. We're not doing it. So what do you guys think? Did you or do you love playing Alien Isolation? Was my review an accurate depiction of the game, or did I miss something? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Oh, and by the way, be sure to drop by my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/ninja, link in the description below. I've recently just finished my first blind playthrough ever of Alien Isolation. If you haven't yet, make sure you smack that subscribe button and the bell notification. That way you know when the next video goes live. Until then, I'll see you in the next video. And Ninja out! Smoke bomb!